that probably is going to come with experience. He's having like a fine season. Like, the last month or so, it wasn't great, but like overall, you look at his numbers and he's been a pretty good player. I'm hoping he looks at what happened there with Ohtani, and he has a 12, 15-year career, and he looks back at it and goes, that was one of the milestone markers in my career, because that day I learned ABC about becoming a professional, about being a big leaguer, about dealing with teammates, and it helped me along the way. I think that's the best case scenario with this. The way you saw the players and coaches go up to him on the bench and start talking to him, what that told me was this conversation is ongoing. That wasn't the first time anyone has talked to him about these kinds of things, and how to conduct yourself, how to act, how to not be so hard on yourself. And so hopefully that it was in public and that he had to speak for himself after the game, which I thought he did a very good job in owning it. And that showed some maturity as well. I think that, maybe this is that marker for him that says, okay, snap to it. I have a better realization of what this looks like, what this means. Here, starting today is when I start to change it for the better. I really hope that that's where this goes, because I think if he's able to do that, that's going to go a long way in his player development as well, not just his mental makeup, but I think in his production, because when you can let some of that other stuff go, you become a better player.
Yeah, and I think, look, Greg and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, in that I think if you are the Dodgers, you have to try to find that balance between sort of letting him be who he is. I mean, it's that sort of attitude, it's that fire that got him to where he is.
Totally agree.
Versus, you don't want to take that completely away from him, right? But you also have to sort of figure out how to rein that in a little bit, because you don't want it to get to a point where you are irritating Shohei Ohtani, right? You don't want it to get to a point where Freddie Freeman feels like he has to apologize to other teams for some of the things Dalton Rushing does. And I think that's sort of the balance that they have to walk. And I think, to your point, some of this is on Dalton to sort of understand when you can sort of go all out and when you sort of have to pull it back a little bit. But, he's a young guy. I do think, I don't know, some of it probably changes too. Or some of this comes, I think, Anthony, with him having to be the everyday guy right now. I think when Will Smith comes back and Dalton goes back to being kind of the guy who catches every couple days a week, maybe something like that, maybe there's a little bit of less pressure. I do think some of this pressure is not just the catching. I think it's the fact that he's not hitting. I mean, he started the season so great, and he's not hitting right now.
Yeah, that is absolutely part of the frustration. And you talk about his competitive fire and how he wears his emotions on his sleeve. When you're not going well, those things are going to tend to show in a more negative light. And I think that's what he's going through right now. He gets crossed up on that pitch with Ohtani, and he looks back and kind of glares. And it's just like, bro, it doesn't matter who's on the mound. You shouldn't do that to your guy. It was a mistake on someone's part. You don't show him up in public like that. And let's be real, especially Ohtani. You know what I mean? And so, look, again, like I said, I hope that this is a fork in the road for him, where he decides, you know what, I'm going to go in this direction because this is going to lead to more positive outcomes. And this can be a real growing experience for him and for the team in that clubhouse. And you know what I mean? They're trying to, and they're still trying to, I think, indoctrinate him into what it means to be a Dodger in this current era with this culture. Because I think he mostly fits it, but when he does things like that goes directly against the grain of what they've built in that clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I can always come back to is I think people from the outside can hate the Dodgers for the success they've had, for how they've built the organization. I think it's hard to hate individual Dodgers because, one, they seem to be good guys, whether it's Freddie, Mookie, Shohei, whoever, but also because they do go about their business in a very professional way generally. And so I think there's something about, I don't think we've coined the phrase the Dodger way yet. I hope not, because I think that's that always sounds corny when you say that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But there is certainly a manner in which this team has carried itself, and I think they're trying to help Dalton kind of get to that at this point. So
yeah, my last point, and I'll be quick, but you look at other teams, particularly in the moment, the Giants. You look at teams who have gone through certain things like this in the past, the Padres, and how those environments feel toxic from the outside. And the Giants are proving that maybe it actually is. And they've had this before with like the whole Gabe Kapler situation and did he lose the clubhouse or did he not? But the way that this has been handled, it was something that happened in public. And then the way it's been handled, like basically immediately, as soon as Rushing got back into the dugout, clearly someone had talked to him before the media got into the clubhouse after the game. And then I think the way that they've gone about this the entire season with him shows that there's a reason those kinds of incidences that happened with the Padres, that happened with the Giants, there's a reason they don't happen with the Dodgers. And I think you got to see some of that in real time.
Yeah. I see this in the chat too. I've heard this other word. Any thought that maybe they have Chucky Robinson handle Shohei's next start?
I think that would send a really, like, if it happens and it falls on those kinds of days, and fine, naturally, organically, to make it a thing, I think is a bad reflection and probably stunts any growth that Rushing might have from this.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Leave that alone at this point.
Yeah, I don't think you want to punish him.
Yeah, especially look, if they've worked things out, I'm sure they've had a conversation. I don't know if, I have no idea if Dalton talked to the whole team or if he just addressed Shohei personally, whatever, but I get the feeling whatever happened on Wednesday is probably squashed, in which case, if they're good with it, then, the rest of us should be good with it as well. We can all move on to whatever comes next.
And hopefully Will Smith's back before this.
Hopefully he's back soon, right? And then this is no longer a conversation at that point. Let's talk about some good, though, because, it feels like every week we come on here and we talk about Mookie Betts and whether he's close, whether he's finally starting to break out again. It looks like he's turned a corner. Now, look, slumps happen. It could happen. He could fall back into it. But over the last couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, we've seen his batting average jump about 50 points. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He hit his 300th career home run. I'm starting to feel like the Mookie we're used to is starting to show up again.
Before I address that quickly, we got breaking news. And again, more toxicity from other teams in the National League. The Mets have fired Carlos Mendoza, their manager.
Oof. Yeah. I thought he'd make it a little bit longer, but it seemed like the writing was on the wall for him for a while now.
Yeah. So Mookie Betts, I'm with you. It feels like some of that luck is turning. He was getting BABIP to death as an offensive player. Some of that is starting to regress in the positive way. And so, I think you're seeing some of that stuff even out. But, I think the bigger picture here is looking at like Mookie continued to stick with what he was doing. And he had confidence and faith that he was taking the right approach to all of this. The results might not have been there, but he knew that he was doing things in the right way that would lead to production. And I think we're now seeing it. And I think the balance lies somewhere, the floor lies somewhere far above what he was earlier this season, like last month, and a little bit lower than where he is now. And I think if you get that, with his defense, you suddenly get an all-star caliber player again. And if he's that Mookie Betts, it extends and deepens this lineup so much. The very similar to the way that Teoscar Hernandez does when he's going well. Like, there's just no let up in this lineup when guys like that, especially if you're able to move Mookie back up to, like, say, the 2 spot, there's just no let up for opposing pitching staffs when those guys are going right. And him going right is a huge catalyst in this team, for this team, because one, of who he is and how he goes, but also because I think of typically the role he plays. Because if he's one guy, if he gets hotter, they're going to move him up in the lineup, I would imagine, at some point. That he's not going to stay where he's at. And so that can be a massive help.
Yeah, and I credit to Mookie for the work he's put in, right? Because everything you read and hear, and I had a chance a few weeks ago to talk to Oral Hershiser, and he was really preaching that Mookie is putting in work, and at that time felt like it hadn't happened yet, but felt like it was coming soon. It was sort of the believe in the back of the baseball card thing, right? This guy's had so much success over his career that it seemed hard to imagine that he wasn't going to get back to some form of that. And so, hopefully the luck has started to turn. On top of it, he's just having better at bats, having better swings. We're seeing power to the pull side, which tends to let you know that Mookie is sort of going well.
Yeah.
But you did hit on a thing that we were sort of wondering, because Greg and I talked about this too. Right now, he's starting to get loose in the 4 spot. You would move if this continues. You would move him back to the number 2 spot.
It's got to be a longer term,
Yeah.
success rate here. I don't think you do it now. I think if he's going this way through the All-Star break, you probably come out of the break and you move him up. That would be my thinking here.
Yeah, because we were debating, and you can feel free to weigh in on this, whether obviously I don't think you can leave Andy Pages there because he has struggled incredibly for the last month.
And that's kind of how I think of it. If he were going like okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not great, but like not what he's actually currently doing, then maybe you can say like, okay, yeah, let's just let Mookie ride this out for the rest of the season unless we have to make a change. I think you have to make a change now based on how Pages is going there. He cannot continue to hit behind Shohei with like that. But you also want to see more sustained success for Mookie Betts. So like I said, you give it through the All-Star break. That gives you another few weeks to go. And if things still look like they look, then I think you probably come out of there and you say, okay, we're going to move Mookie back to the 2 spot.
In the short term, because Pages is struggling so bad. I mean, he looks like playoff Andy Pages right now. Would you consider like a Tommy Edman in that 2 spot?
I think that would be fair. Yeah, and I think maybe it's possible that they don't make it like you're our 2 hitter now kind of situation. It may be more of like, hey, you got this series. We're gonna kind of sort of be fluid with this situation in that spot in the order. But yeah, I think you look at how everybody is going right now and who's healthy, and you probably say, okay, I think based on the way Edman has approached his at-bats and what he looks like currently, like let's use him here in the short term. I think that's probably the best option.
So here's the pitching side of things. Is Justin Robleski an all-star?
Yes. Will he make it is another question.
Yeah,
but he's got all-star numbers. So I know that's ducking the question a little bit. You know what? Like, you always end up with a pitching staff in the All-Star game that is probably 3, sometimes maybe 4 guys who weren't initially on the roster because guys pitch on that Sunday or their teams tell the All-Star manager that, hey, he's not available, that kind of thing. And so I think if it gets 3 deep, I think he can make it. And I think he should make it. He's done this long enough and he's been consistent enough. And that ERA, that sub-3 ERA isn't a fluke. I think we can all understand that if we've watched him enough. And so he's deserving. And like I said, I don't think he makes the initial roster. But I think you get 3 guys who can't pitch. And I think Robleski's name is absolutely in play. Yeah.
How about if I unmute myself? Maybe that'll work too. Anyway, I'm trying to do the math in my head, right? I mean, Max Muncy's going to be there. Shohei's going to be there. Freddie Freeman has a shot at it. Pages should be there. I mean, there could be 5 or 6 Dodgers. Yamamoto maybe has a shot. I don't know, because the pitching in the National League is so deep. But we could have 5 or 6 Dodgers on this All-Star team this year, including maybe 3 starters this year.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think like a month ago, I thought, maybe 2 starters, maybe a pitcher. But you look kind of where it's gone since then, and yeah, I think you're right. Like I'm with you. I think Otani, obviously. You look at Pajes. I think Muncy has a chance. I think Freddie has a chance. And then yeah, from the pitching side, I think Robleski has a legitimate case at this. Yamamoto also does, but he like if you talk about Robleski, probably doesn't enter the conversation until 3 guys go down. I think Yamamoto enters the conversation if 1 guy goes down. But yeah, like we've seen years, I think too, where the team has been so good and maybe they didn't get what we thought would be enough all-star consideration for some of the guys. I think this year they're going to get enough based on where they're at and based on some of the season guys are having, because there also have been some disappointments, right? Like Mookie Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, Kyle Tucker, like those guys. I think you could make legitimate cases coming into the season that, like, yeah, I think they can make the all-star team, and none of them probably should be making it at this point.
No, I don't think so. I haven't checked in a while, but I know at one point Mookie was second among National League shortstops, and that felt like name brand value is kind of what that was, as opposed to his performance so far this year. Dodgers start a 3-game series down in San Diego. Coming into this one, the Padres at 42-37, just sort of kind of going along, although they're coming off a sweep of the Braves, so. That's interesting there, but 9 games back. Look, I know for the Dodgers, you want to go in, you want to win, you want to play well in every series, but I'm not going to say this is a last gasp for the Padres, but it does feel like they really need to get at least 2 of these next 3 to at least give themselves a positive feeling for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, look, they got to feel great that they swept the Braves and didn't make up a single game in the standings while doing it. That's tough, man. Like, you play well enough against one of the best teams in the league, and you look up at the standings and you're exactly where you were when that series started. That's rough. But yeah, I'm with you. I think you lose this series, you lose 2 or 3. If you're the Padres, you lose 2 or 3 here, and you're probably going to resign yourself mentally. They're not going to say this, but you resign yourself mentally to, like, we got to go and find one of these wild card spots now, because we are not winning this division. You get swept, and that could change things like how they approach the deadline. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I think for that organization, like, their season teeters. It's that wobbly that this series at home on a weekend, and it's going to have a lot of eyes on it. Could kind of determine, like, what the rest of the year looks like post All-Star break for the Padres.
I'm not the Dodger fans are going to be sad about this, but Manny Machado is he washed? Is he just having a bad season? I mean, dude's hitting $184 right now, and it was sort of obscured by this whole, like, Fernando Tatis Jr. hasn't hit a home run for the first 2 months of the season, whatever it was. Now it's hard for him to escape the spotlight. Is this the beginning of the end for Manny Machado?
I think it's a fair question to ask. You look at some of his other numbers, and they don't look as bad as, like, the batting average does. But he's not been very good at all. He's got 14 homers. Maybe that expands out to like 25, and so he's right sort of in line with where he normally is. But that OPS plus, WRC plus, like, that is well below his normal rates. And yeah, I think that his approach is going to have to change, I think, if he wants to find more success. Like, whatever he's been doing isn't working anymore. And, like, we're seeing we're seeing the washer, like the water come in, like, right when you first push the button and the water starts to seep in. We're at that stage. I don't think he's completely washed yet, but the system has gotten going to, you might be washed soon if you don't turn this thing off. Yeah, we're getting close. Like, and it's not just him. Like, you look at guys that they really did expect to, like, have significant impacts on this team. Jackson Merrill has been worse. And I remember when he signed that extension, when the Padres signed him to that extension, I was on one of our shows on Dodger Blue, and I was like, great, we got to deal with this guy for 10 more years. When they signed him to that extension, he was like he was looking like an MVP candidate, like, perennially.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been worse than Machado right now. And I think he's the scarier guy because they are looking at him to be the guy who steps into the role as Machado starts to fade. And he doesn't have the track record aside from like a season, basically, to say like he could be that guy. And now they got him locked up long-term for a lot of money.
Yeah, that rookie year is starting to be in the rearview mirror a little bit for Jackson Merrill, and I say that sort of in a bittersweet way because like I'm never going to root for the Padres, but also I have Jackson Merrill on a fantasy baseball team, so it's kind of a mixed bag. With
the important things, right?
Right, exactly. So it's kind of a mixed bag with that one. All right, game 1 of a 3-game weekend series with the Padres. Roki Sasaki on the mound, going against old friend Walker Buehler, who has had some decent moments with the Padres so far this year. So hopefully he can put those on hold at least for tonight and then go back to doing whatever he wants to do after the weekend is over. But Anthony, as always, good to see you. Oh, you have to, how did it go? You mentioned to us that you had them at a bar in downtown San Francisco put on a Dodger game. How did that go for
you? Yeah. I was in the Bay Area for work the other day, and yeah, so we had the Mexico match going on in the World Cup, which I wanted to see, and kind of rushed through dinner to make sure I was able to be in front of a TV for this, and then the Dodger game, and I was like, there was another TV on, and they were both on Mexico, and they were like right next to each other. So I was like, hey, I'm going to order a shot of tequila. Any chance you can change that TV to the Dodger game? Do you have the baseball package? And he was like, yeah, we have it. And I first asked, do you have the baseball package? And he says yes. And I said, any chance I can get the Dodger game on that TV? And he laughs and he was like, I'm going to put it on. I don't think everybody here is like tourists. I don't think that will be a problem. So he puts it on, and then all of a sudden I'm very, very happy. You got Mexico on one side and that match, and you got the Dodgers on the other. Very good stuff going on in downtown San Francisco for me the other day.
Definitely helps that it was more of a tourist type bar as opposed to a locals type bar.
For sure.
I think it goes over.
If it was more of a local place, I might have just put it on my phone.
Probably a wise course of action. Always good to talk to you, man. We'll catch up with you next week.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right. Hey, that'll do it for us. Stick around for the Sedano and Cap Morning Extravaganza. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Tim for production assistance. Greg, hopefully back with us on Monday. Enjoy your long weekend, Greg. You deserved it. But that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. For Anthony, I'm Marcus. We'll see you on Monday, 6:30, 6:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. See you.